right into it. So grab your mat, grab your weights, and let's get to work.
starting with front squats. You want to keep the weight nice and tight to your body. You'll have your feet pushed outside of your hips, and you want to sit as low as you can here. A big key to keep the tension out of your knees is to keep your weight in your heels. All right, let's start this workout out strong.
Next up, we have the suitcase deadlift. So we're going to start with our feet hip distance apart and the weights at our sides. As you hinge back from your hips, you're going to put all the weight into your heels to feel tension in your glutes and hamstrings. As you drive up, you're going to keep your core nice and tight to protect your lower back.
we have alternating front lunges. You'll want to step forward and again keep the emphasis of your weight in your heels. Your knees should be at about 90 degrees as you drop that back knee as far as you can to the floor. If this is too difficult, you can follow me in a split squat by dropping that knee as far as you can. Alright, if you're following the split squat for the modification, you're going to switch here in 3 seconds.
Next up is an alternating single leg deadlift. So just like the regular deadlift, we're going to hinge from the hips, weight is back in our heels, and we're going to feel that tension in our glutes and hamstrings. You're going to elevate the opposite leg off the ground, keeping the toes pointing towards the ground, and engage your core as you drive up to protect your lower back. If you have trouble with balance, you can follow Juice for modification and tap that toe to the ground.
Next up, we're going to get in that loaded glute bridge position. We'll have our heels tucked toward our body, and then we're going to lay that weight flat across our hips. We'll drive through our heels and squeeze our glutes at the top. If this is too difficult, you can take the weight off and just do this body weight.
Neutral grip chest press. So we're going to start lying on our back, elbows close to your body and palms facing each other. You're going to press the dumbbells straight up, lock the elbows and squeeze at the chest. You're going to feel this in your chest muscles but also in your triceps. Next up, we're going to do a neutral grip row. We're going to get into that loaded deadlift position. Keep the weight into your heels so that your hips and glutes are nice and loaded. Keep your core engaged so that your back is flat. And then we're going to drive that weight up as we squeeze our shoulder blades together. You should feel this exercise in your middle back and biceps. a neutral grip shoulder press. So you're going to start with the elbows nice and tight and palms facing each other. You're going to press the dumbbells straight up, lock the elbows, and then return to the starting position, keeping the elbows tight on the way down as well. Keep your core nice and tight so your rib cage doesn't flare out, and squeeze those glutes to protect your lower back.
Next up, we have hammer curls. We're going to get those weights into a neutral position. We're going to keep those elbows nice and tight as we engage our biceps and drive the weight up to our shoulders. We're going to return back down, keep those biceps engaged, but you don't want to swing the weight at the bottom of the move.
Next up, we have a French press. So we're going to use a single dumbbell here. We're going to grab the dumbbell by the head, keeping one hand on top of the other, and you're going to press the dumbbell all the way up, locking your elbows, and you should feel your triceps here. Make sure to keep your rib cage pulled down and core engaged to protect your lower back.
Next, we have a loaded sit-up. We're going to get into that sit-up position, keeping the weight nice and close to our body. We're going to drive up and engage our core through that sit-up. If you find that these are too difficult, you can place the weight by your side and do regular sit-ups, or you can do loaded crunches as a modification.
Next, we have a plank pull through. So we're going to start in a plank position with the dumbbell behind either palm and reach that opposite hand across to pull the dumbbell across the body. You're going to keep your core nice and engaged and the hips neutral facing the ground. If you find it's a little too difficult keeping your hips down, you can modify this by placing your knees on the ground.
big side plank. So we're gonna get into that side plank position by stacking our feet on top of each other, and your elbows should be right underneath your shoulder. You're gonna keep your hips nice and high with that weight right over the shoulders. If you find that this is too difficult on your core and your obliques or your upper body, you can drop your knees to the floor and keep your hips high. Alright guys, in about 5 seconds, we're going to do a quick switch to the other side.
Yeah, my strong side. Oh, goldfish cut me. Couldn't do it.
All right, guys, great job on that first half. We're going to use this time now to grab a drink, grab a towel, and take a little break before we move on to the second half. So for the second half of the workout, we have a similar format but different variations of each exercise. So you're going to notice some of the similar cues from the first half so that you can use those cues to focus on the form, practice that form, and practice on engaging the correct muscles through each exercise.
This right here is tough.
Nature gives us what we need to protect ourselves.
Trying to get back. Thank God for the commercial.
Nature's Way combined these with vitamin C, D, and zinc for powerful immune support inspired by nature. Nature's Way. Downright is a gentle, nature-inspired scent to your wash to breathe life into your laundry.
I'm wobbling.
Gotta walk it off.
Nothing to see here.
First up, we have a drop squat. We'll have our feet just outside of our hips with the weights in between our legs. We're going to keep the weight into our heels, sit as low as you can, but keep your chest as tall as you can at the bottom of the movement. You'll squeeze your glutes at the top, and you should feel this in your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads. All right, let's finish strong.
Next up, we have a front-loaded deadlift. We're going to start by having our feet hip distance apart. We're going to hinge at the hips, keeping the weight back into the heels and the tension in our glutes and hamstrings. You're going to drive up, but keep that core engaged so you protect your lower back. You should feel this in your glutes and hamstrings.
Next up, we have a alternating reverse lunge. So we'll take a big step back while keeping that front knee at 90 degrees while driving that back knee as far as we can to the floor. We'll keep the weight to the heels as we drive up. If you find that this is too difficult, you can repeat that split squat by driving that knee as far as you can to the floor.
If you're following the modification on this split squat, we're going to switch in about 5 seconds. staggered stance deadlift. You're going to start with your feet hip distance apart with your right toe behind your left heel. You're going to hinge back in the hips, keeping all the weight back in the heels and the tension in the glutes and hamstrings. Again, you want to keep your core nice and tight here to protect your lower back, and you should feel your glutes and your hamstrings. Alright guys, in about 5 seconds, we're going to switch and bring that left foot forward.
Next up, we have a loaded single leg glute bridge. So we're going to get back into that glute bridge position with the weight across our hips. We're going to drive through the heels as we lift our hips up with one leg to the sky. We'll alternate sides, but if you find that this is too difficult, again, you can drop one weight to the ground and do this body weight.
Wide grip chest press. So we're going to start on our backs with the elbows wide, and we're going to press the dumbbells all the way to the top, lock out the elbows, and squeeze your chest at the top. Again, here, similar to the neutral grip chest press, you should feel your chest and your triceps.
Next up, we have a wide grip row. So we're going to get back into that loaded deadlift position with our weight in our heels. Our glutes should be loaded and our core nice and tight to keep our back flat. We're going to drive those elbows away from our body, squeezing those shoulder blades together, and you should feel your middle back and your biceps here.
We have a dumbbell military press. So we're going to start with the elbows wide and press the dumbbells all the way up overhead, locking out at the top, and then bringing them back down, keeping the elbows wide. As you press up, you want to keep that rib cage pulled down and core engaged to help protect your lower back.
have supine curls. So we're going to have our palms facing the sky. We're going to engage our biceps and drive that weight all the way up to the shoulders. You want to control the weight down, and just like those hammer curls, you don't want to swing or use your hips to get the weight up.
Dumbbell skull crusher, and we're only going to use one dumbbell here, holding the dumbbell at both heads. You're going to keep your elbows in a fixed position and lower that dumbbell towards your head. Keep your elbows fixed and tight as you press the dumbbell all the way up. Lock out at the top, and you should feel your triceps.
Tiles are falling right into place until you run out of, what are those called again? That's it.
Next up, we have a overhead sit-up. So we get back into that sit-up position, starting with the dumbbell right over our eyes. We're going to engage the core as we sit up while keeping that dumbbell driven overhead. If you find that these are too difficult, you can do a dumbbell crunch as a modification, but you should feel this in your abs and your shoulders. Next up, we have an alternating renegade row. So first, we'll start in a plank position with a dumbbell behind either hand. We'll pull with the opposite arm, driving the elbow up as far as we can. The big key here is keeping those hips flat. That's going to make sure your abs are engaged, and you'll also feel your biceps and back. Last exercise, we're going to do a side plank raise. So we're going to get back into that side plank position, stack those feet, elbows underneath the shoulders. We're going to drop that weight to the floor, open up, and drive it to the sky. Again, if you find that this is too difficult, just drop those knees to the ground and make sure you keep your hips high. Alright guys, in about 5 seconds, we're going to make a quick switch to the other side.
Switching now. it. Let's stand the work on. Cool down. Go. Woo. Oh, I'm supposed to be resting. I'm doing snow angel. See you with next week's results.
Alright guys, so that's a wrap for the 30-minute beginner dumbbell workout. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And again, we gave you guys those cues and tips around to help us